Hey YouTube, how's it going this evening? It's almost sundown here, so I wanted to get this quick video in. Well, actually it's not going to be that quick because there's a lot of information here. But if you've ever suffered from fatigue and it's not from lack of sleep and it's not from lack of coffee, then you need to listen up, because I would have never known that these things were wrong with me had I not get them checked out. So I've always had this, well, I never actually considered it a problem before, because what was going on with me was something my doctor referred to as wired and tired. So I went through life every day being like having a lot of energy, like just feeling this kind of nervous energy and thinking, oh, this is so great. I'm going to get so much done. Like everything is, so energized. And then by like midday, every day, like clockwork, around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would be exhausted and I would need to take a nap, or I would like fall asleep at my desk. It was getting to the point where it was really bad. Then the other thing that was going on, sorry, this might fall. The other thing that was going on was I started feeling sad, and I thought I was depressed at certain times. And, you know, for those who've been watching my videos, you know, I've been on the TTC journey for several years. So I always kind of chalked it up to that. I'm like, oh, I'm just sad because I'm not pregnant, or I'm sad because I've had miscarriages. So there is like legit reasons for the sadness. But it was the kind of thing where it just wouldn't go away. There was just always this underlying like doom and gloom. And I always tried to do all the activities that I love, like sing and dance and visit friends and swim and ski and like all of these activities. And for a while there in my life, I just was never home. I would always be doing something just to take my mind off of how I was feeling. So last year, after my second miscarriage, which was in December of 18, in the beginning of last year of 19, I started watching a lot of YouTube videos and trying to figure out, why am I so tired all the time? Like, what is going on? And actually I came across a video that suggested that I see a functional medicine doctor. I'm like, what the heck is that? So that I had to Google. And that's a person that is sort of like a homeopathic, where they diagnose you from like the inside out in terms of all of your systems, like your endocrine system, your digestive system, your immune system, all of that. So when I went to her in October, she made me do a bunch of crazy tests. I had to spit in little vials. I had to give a urine sample. I had to give a fecal sample. That was gross. And I had to do all of this like at home and then send it out to the lab. It was crazy. But I'm really glad I did it, because actually one of the things I discovered, and also other than the wired and tired thing, like being tired all the time, I had this thing and I just would never feel hungry. I would eat so that I wouldn't die, but I never felt like the hunger to eat. And all my friends are like, that's not normal. And then I would like eat, and then I would be full for the whole rest of the day. Like I wouldn't need to eat again. And again, like everybody was saying, that's not normal. I'm like, well, that's how I am. And just thinking that was how I am. And I thinking that was normal for me. So I'm really glad she did the fecal test. Gross. Sorry, I know. But what she discovered was in the gut, there's good bacteria. I think everybody has heard of the good bacteria before, the lactobacillus and a couple of other things. Let me see if I can find it. But anyway, what was discovered was that I was completely lacking the lactobacillus bacteria in my gut, which is one of the prominent bacteria, the most important bacteria to keep your gut healthy. So I had literally zero of that. Lactobacillus bacteria was non-existent. So she immediately put me on a probiotic comprised mostly of the lactobacillus strains. And the other thing that was discovered with the spitting test, that's when they check your adrenal function. How much serotonin you're creating, how much GABA you're creating. So serotonin and GABA are the calming and also mood lifting hormones that your body excretes. Along with that, there's the energizing hormones, which we are more familiar with, like epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine. There's a couple of other ones here, glutamate and PEA. Those are all energizing hormones. And then there's of course cortisol, and cortisol is the one that is not the enemy. Like a lot of people think. It's actually super important to have cortisol, but obviously not in like excess amounts. So interestingly, all of my cortisol levels were normal, so that's great. And the DHEA, though, that it says it affects, so my adrenal reserves were low, even though the cortisol level was good. But the most important, okay, so serotonin and GABA, they're inhibitory neurotransmitters. So that means basically it takes you from awake to be able to sleep. So in theory, your serotonin and your GABA go up when you're about to go to sleep. And in the morning, when you need to function during the day, all of the excitatory neurotransmitters go up, which is the dopamine and the norepinephrine and epinephrine, things like that. So my calming neurotransmitters, which is the serotonin and the GABA, those were the ones that were super low. And it's like super low. Like, so the range is like, for example, serotonin, you want it to be around 200, and mine was 70. And then the GABA, you want it to be around 800 or 900. Mine was 220. So these were not just like slightly below normal. These were like seriously below normal. So she gave me a bunch of pills. One of them was a GABA. One of them is called Prolent, which is to raise the serotonin. So I just checked it again a couple of weeks ago. Now my serotonin is normal. It's 167, but my GABA actually went down. It went down to 114. So GABA is specifically for sleeping difficulties. So having a low GABA, it's like I still couldn't stay asleep. I can't stay asleep. So I could be tired and fall asleep, but I can't stay asleep. And that's still an issue. So I'm forcing myself now to take the GABA pill, but I'm taking it in the daytime. So in the hopes that it won't affect or keep me up, even though it's supposed to help me sleep. It's very weird. You know, that's the body for you. What you think should happen doesn't always happen. But anyway. So GABA also helps to reduce anxiety and hyperactivity. So I don't feel the hyperactivity so much anymore, thank God, because that was just like a nervous energy that, if you know what I'm talking about, it's just a horrible way to live. And anxiety, though, I do have that probably more than before. But raising the serotonin, I feel much better. Like overall, I don't feel sad all the time. I do periodically get my sad bouts, but not like constant feeling of being down or depressed. So that's great. The other energizing hormones were low still, and actually they went down. So it's really crazy how your body is just like, you try to help one thing and you negatively affect something else. So for that, like for the energizing ones like epinephrine, norepinephrine, she's having me take like a vitamin B complex, vitamin C. So it's nothing crazy or out of the ordinary to use. I mean, a lot of people take these things anyway, which is great. So we'll see about that. I don't feel like I don't have energy. I definitely feel like I still do have a lot of energy. So even though these numbers are low, it's not super concerning to me. What's more concerning is the GABA level, because that is going to affect my sleep. And I know, and everyone knows, that sleep is like super important. So that's that. The other thing that I've been dealing with for, gosh, probably like 20 years already is my thyroid level, specifically my TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. That level has always been sort of like this borderline elevated number. And if you're trying to get pregnant, you probably know all about the TSH, because you ideally want it to be below 2 if you want to get pregnant or try to get pregnant. So mine was almost 5 when I was put on treatment. And that was back in the day when I first started trying to get pregnant. And the doctor at that time, he didn't mention anything about the TSH level. And it wasn't until I changed doctors and I went to a doctor who actually prescribed me some Thyroid, which is synthetic thyroid, and my TSH went down. That's the first time I ever got pregnant after an IUI with my first husband. But it didn't last. It was a chemical pregnancy. I didn't even get to the ultrasound. It just like ended. But still, it happened. So that's that. And so all these years, I thought, well, if my TSH is good, then I'm good, right? I mean, I didn't know otherwise. I didn't know about all of these other aspects to the thyroid hormones, like the free floating forms of thyroid in your blood, which is T3 and T4. And then there's something called T3 reverse. I don't even know what that does. So those levels, like T3 and T4, T3, you want it to be around 3.25. And gosh, again, mine went down. No, sorry, I didn't. It basically stayed the same. It went from 2.6 to 2.7. And even though that's not triggered as low on the papers here, the doctor was like, ideally you want it to be 3.25. So I got to work on that a little bit. My T4 is good. It's 1.2, and that's within range. And also my TSH was normal. It was normal then, and it's normal now. It's 1.8. I am taking, she did switch me to Nature Thyroid, which is like a more natural version of the Synthroid. The other component of the thyroid is you want to make sure that you check your thyroid globulin antibodies and also your thyroid peroxidase antibodies. So when these two aspects of the thyroid are elevated, that indicates an autoimmune response to the thyroid. For example, Hashimoto's. So if you have a high thyroid peroxidase antibody, that indicates Hashimoto's. So I've been going my whole life since about 2006. I can look back in my records, and my TPA, which is the thyroid peroxidase antibody, has always been high. It got flagged as high, but no doctor ever told me about it. They just pushed more Synthroid onto me, hoping it would bring down the TPA. And last year, before I started seeing this functional medicine doctor, my TPA shot up to like 95. I mean, it was creeping up. It was like in the 20s, and it was in the 30s, and it was in the 60s, and most recently the 90s. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I knew that wasn't good, but no one ever explained it to me or sought to treat it. So this doctor put me on vitamin D. So I always knew vitamin D was a great thing to take. It's really good for your bones. It's really great to keep the level high to prevent diseases in the body. It actually is theorized to prevent cancer and also treat cancer. I don't know. This isn't a vitamin D special, but maybe I'll do another video on that. But I know vitamin D is super useful for a lot of things, and one of them being reducing the TPA level. So I started taking 10,000 IUs every day of vitamin D. And I was able to raise my vitamin D level. And, you know, wouldn't you know, my vitamin D level was not good back in when I first started this treatment. My TPA was 91. My vitamin D was 54. Some doctors would tell you that a 54 vitamin D level is good. And I'm here to tell you, it's not good. It's supposed to be between 60 and 80. And you might say, oh, 54, that's close enough to 60. No, like when it comes to vitamin D, you really want to keep it within that range. If you can get it to like 70 or 80, that's perfect. So I started really loading up on the vitamin D, maybe even too much so. So when I last got everything checked, my vitamin D went up to 92, and she put good. So I'm going to continue with my daily dose of 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. And look at that. Look at this. My TPA, that was 91 back 7 months ago. Now it's 11. 11. That's almost normal. Below 9 is normal. Shit, I'll take it. But like, it's never been 11. Ever. It's never been below 20. So I'm super happy about that. And, you know, I had to Google that to find out that if you have a high TPA, use vitamin D to treat it and to lower the TPA. It's super important. So you basically get rid of your autoimmune response that's causing your thyroid condition. Making sense? So overall, if you're feeling sluggish and it's been going on for more than 6 months and you don't have any like legit or logical explanation for it, I highly suggest going to see a functional medicine doctor, getting your neurotransmitters and your adrenals checked. So the neurotransmitters and the adrenal glands function checked. And I also suggest you get your thyroid panel. So it's called a thyroid panel. That includes the TSH, the T4, the T3, the T3 reverse, the thyroid globulin antibodies, and the thyroid peroxidase antibodies. That's a complete thyroid panel. And every time you get your thyroid checked, you want to make sure it's a complete thyroid panel. So I would start there, and I hope that you find some relief. I hope you find some answers, because there's nothing more frustrating than thinking that you're doing everything right. You're eating well, you're taking your vitamins, and like you're just still always feeling sluggish in the middle of the day. It's not fair. You're losing out on your life and being productive, and it's just not a good way to live. So I wish you luck, and please write me with any questions or comments. I would love to hear your story, and I hope you get well soon. Thank you so much. If you found this video useful, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be making a lot more videos like this. I think the next one I'm going to make on vitamin D and the effects of vitamin D and how important vitamin D is. And also, of course, I'm always going to be updating you on my fertility journey, my never-ending pregnancy. My husband likes to say that we are pregnant. We just have like the longest pregnancy in history. And also, I'm going to start making more real estate videos. And I have some really exciting, cool news that I'm going to share with you really soon. I have to create a website first and get all my thoughts and ideas on paper. But I'm really excited about this new venture that I'm about to do, and I will definitely update you with that. So please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Love you guys.